Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Braden, Tim, Second Legacy. You are amazing. Welcome back to The Place, the talk show angle with the 2A, where we apply humor, sarcasm in a perfect fashion to take you about your day in a 2A way. With that said, we've got to dive into it, Tim. I don't want to do it, but it turns out gun confiscation has a new name. There's a new buzzword. We're going to walk you guys right through it, and they are going full bore. Of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you love Tim, and make him smile. And with that, Tim, because he needs it today, we're going to talk about mandatory gun buybacks. They're so friendly. It's so nice.
It's about time they bought them back.
It's about time. Mandatorily.
Yeah.
So it's not an option. You gotta put that mandatory part in.
I didn't know in my entire life I've been buying guns from the Democrats this whole time. Jeez.
The whole time. You didn't know.
Learn something new every day.
Would that make them the manufacturers? Nah, I don't know.
Oh, that means they're liable. If they're buying them back, that means
fair.
they're theirs to begin with, and it's their fault I have them. We can sue them.
That is why we are here, people. Out of the box thinking. That's exactly right. Well, Tim, I don't like confiscation. I don't like that idea. And apparently they don't like that word either. So they've come up with this new one. I'm going to start this first clip. Now, this is on NBC yesterday. Kirsten Walker. No, we're just going to borrow them. Just going to borrow them indefinitely. Yeah, exactly. We're going to play this first little clip and we'll kind of stop as we go. Let's just get right into it on a Monday morning. How's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Should she also be, in your opinion, supporting a mandatory gun buyback program?
Listen, we're not going to be able to get where we need to go without action in Congress. We've got to pass some laws to deal with this. Now, I was heartened by the fact that 2 years ago we finally...
Tim, congressional action. If we finally get ahead, we just got to do something. Something, Tim.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Didn't they just do something?
Well, yeah, but I mean, that was the most consequential gun control in 30 years. It just hasn't done anything. And so they need to do more because every time they pass consequential gun control, like background checks and red flag laws, and they still have, criminals running around doing criminal things. They can't seem to make the connection that all these laws they pass that never do anything, they can't make the connection that they don't work.
That's weird, Tim.
That imposing your will on the law abiding does nothing to change the outcome for criminals. How about, I know, novel idea that's just totally off the wall, we focus on the criminal.
We could.
Yeah, I
don't know though. I'm not fully sold. I'm not fully sold because
it's out there.
Those criminals. You put it out there. You floated it. The balloon is floating right now. Those criminals, if they didn't have the undue influence from the metal, I think it's actually imbued. It's kind of like the ring in Lord of the Rings. It like whispers to you. If you like put your hand in the actual trigger guard, you actually go invisible. It's really impressive. It's a cool feature.
I mean, it happens to me every time I walk in the house. My precious, I'm in the safe.
It's the SIG P365s. That's what it's a new feature. Trust me, it's okay. But other than that, Tim, you remember what the Safer Communities Act did that you brought it up? You remember all the little facets? I mean,
they didn't do anything.
Well,
they claimed it. They claimed it stopped 200 purchases or something nonsensical.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 200 hold purchases. But the intent, though, what they promised us, and what the outcome was, we had intensified, enhanced background checks for 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. Remember, 18,
and then a 14-year-old. Just
yeah. Then they promised that the ATF would do a lot more for funding. Well, technically that wasn't the ATF. The DOJ was doing a lot more funding to get more states to do red flag laws, which, by the way, red flag laws, when talking about this Georgia thing, what would red flag laws not have anything to do with, Tim?
That.
Yeah. And then the last one was reclassifying everyone who was defined as a dealer. And I'm pretty sure that also would have nothing to do with this. But don't waste a tragedy. Tim, come on.
No.
We can do so much.
But they always do that, right? Every time something bad happens, they make a lot of assumptions. And then if they don't get the outcome that they want, they try to insert the outcome that they want. And then when they get caught, they just sweep it under the rug and move on to the next one.
That's very true. In fact,
and what really throws them off their game is when the perpetrator belongs to them. Right? And their ideologies. That really throws them off. The minute that makes the news cycle, then they definitely treat it like a hot potato. They don't want to touch it. They just move immediately on to the next issue.
100%. That's why on my channel I do a segment series called The Invisible Mass Shooting. They only cover the shootings that they want to cover.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so disgusting. But anyway,
I mean, you've noticed that the whole Georgia one's kind of fallen out of favor right now.
Yeah, in that
it's
weird.
Odd.
I mean, I don't know what it could be. It could either be the fact that it was a broken home, the fact that it was a 14-year-old, the fact that he threatened a school shooting a year ago, the fact that the FBI and the police were there, the fact that the parents were aware, the fact the parents bought the 14-year-old an AR-15, the mother was called the school 30 minutes before and said there's going to do something. You got meth involved for the arrest from the mother. You've got an estranged husband. You've got an eviction where the guns have been seized prior. I can't imagine why they'd want to run away from this one.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And then there's the motive, but we won't go into that.
Yeah, we can't talk about that, though.
Yeah.
But, we can talk about. We are fully allowed to talk about the things that did work, like the hardening of the schools, like the buttons that locked down the school instantly before a shot was fired, the SROs that responded quickly, the police response time of 2 minutes, all of which they told us would never stop anything.
Right. Yeah. How many lives were saved by the RSO immediately intervening, immediately? And then who was it that tried to pass legislation that would pull police officers and funding from schools for security and police officers and SROs?
Does her name rhyme with Shamamla Shmaris?
It does. Yes, it does. That sounds just like her. And this is something I've been saying all along, folks. These people actively, Davey over at K-12 Shooting Database, every time there's a shooting, you know what he does? He posts articles about how security doesn't work at schools and why schools should be just basically open doors, no security, come on in, but we want to take your guns away. So what they're saying here is security doesn't work. And then he'll make these analogies because people will say, well, why does it work at airports? Why does it work at the White House? Well, it costs too much. We can't have it. He just has every excuse in the book why they will not protect our children. It's almost as if they want these negative outcomes so they can get their political agenda pushed forward. Why else on God's green earth would you not want to harden our schools? You support putting security in airports and at the White House and everywhere in between sporting events. We just had a little event here in town where they had snipers on the roof. That this event's been going on for the last 50 years in this little town. They got security everywhere, but you put it in the school. Oh, that doesn't work. Why would security work?
Well,
security's dangerous to children.
What I think it comes down to, and this is a little deeper. I didn't mean to go into this in this video, but I think what it really boils down to is there are two different approaches to these instances. And whether it's in a school, whether it's in public, whether it's gang violence, whatever it is, there's two different approaches. The first approach is, this is horrible, let's fix this problem. And then the other reaction is, this is horrible, what kind of nation do we live in where this would even happen? You're so stuck on the emotional outrage that it would even happen that you're not solving for the problem. That's where you're at.
If only their mindset were like, oh my gosh, how did we get here? What's going on in society? If they were actually thinking about that, but they don't think about that. Something bad happens, they go, it's the gun.
Well, that's
how about
point.
The crazy person that's pulling the trigger? What is causing that?
No, exactly. That's my whole point. There is not the next step of emotional response into physical, into mental, into strategic. The analysis and the application of your analysis, that is not happening on the gun control side. What they are doing is they are doing emotional reaction. They are sticking in the emotional reaction. They're going directly to outrage that this would even be possible to happen in this country. So what's making it happen? It's clearly the guns, because the Democrat politicians have told us it's the guns. And literally that's the end of the conversation. And now it's cemented.
Yeah.
It's not, that really is how it works, at least in my observation. But
Democrats view guns in a completely different light than they do everything else on the planet.
100%.
Right?
Well,
if a drunk driver goes out and kills somebody, drunk driving, they don't say, gosh, we need to ban that alcohol. It's the alcohol's fault. It's the alcohol, or it's the car's fault. We need to sue the car manufacturers. It's the cars, people. It's the cars. They go, that driver needs to be put in prison.
That is correct.
Every single time something like that happens, be it a plane crash, car crash, whatever, everything that happens in life, they always talk about the person that caused it, and you never hear them talking about suing whoever made whatever device was misused or was involved in the accident. But when we get to guns, well, it's the guns.
Correct. That's exactly correct. Now, that's kind of the road that we're going on right now. So now let's go back to the senator, because it's the Democratic senator of Georgia, and listen to what he says. There's some interesting stuff here.
Would deal with this now. I was heartened by the fact that 2 years ago we finally did a gun safety law. The Safer Communities Act. And it was the first gun safety law we passed in 30 years. 30 years. And it was modest, but it did save lives. But clearly, in the wake of what happened, just the other day in Winder, Georgia. It's not enough. And the least we can do is move forward on the bipartisan spaces where ordinary people agree. Clearly, there's a disconnect.
Tim, did you catch that? Kind of what you said.
It was the most, the biggest gun
thing.
control. Yeah, in 30 years, and when they were trying to pass it, they were selling it to us like, this is going to save lives, folks. This is the gun control we need. If we could just get this over the finish line, we're going to change the world. And now they're downplaying it. Well, it was a modest attempt. We got to do much more. You know,
we covered it here. We literally we have a timestamp chronological order of them, Chris Murphy, all the Democrats saying how amazingly incredible this legislation is. And within 12 hours, it was a baby step. And, we did it.
We knew it wasn't really going to change anything. Yeah.
And this guy, this is what really bothers me about this type of talking head interview. It's these platitudes of, it was a modest step, first in 30 years. It was amazing, but also nothing. And it saved lives. Really? Can you point to that? No.
But we don't want to focus on that right now. Let's talk about what we can do down the road. Yeah.
Because clearly it wasn't enough. See, that's how this works. It's the first gun control in 30 years, so give us credit for doing it. But it's modest and wasn't far enough. And now in light of this tragedy, obviously we need more. Yeah. This is literally how they do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's get more of it.
Okay.
Connect between what the American people want and what they're able to get out of their government. Again, 87% of Americans believe in background checks. And yet I hear politicians say that it's not guns who kill people, it's people who kill people. And yet we don't even want to know who those people are. We won't even support.
Senator, yes or no, though? Should she support the mandatory buyback program? Just a yes or no.
Listen, look, as a pastor, I've done buyback programs. You can pick this issue or that issue. But I think that, again, there's not one single thing that will make all of this go away.
All right.
What a great last statement there. Can you just give me a yes or no answer? Well, I'm a pastor and I wake up in the morning and the sun's coming up and then the sky turns blue. They're birds. I see birds every day. And there's nothing we can really do. I mean, what is that? She keeps pushing him for a yes or no answer. Well, let me be perfectly clear. I like turtles. And turtles have shells. Now we have soft shell turtles, and those are good to eat. But I don't want to hurt turtles. I like turtles. And the sky's blue. Can you give us a yes or no, Senator? Well, look, I'm a pastor, and I mean, and then he goes on to say, well, there's nothing we can really do here.
Correct. But what's so fascinating about that statement? I'm glad you picked up on that, because people of the second legacy, you have to understand what you're dealing with. And that's kind of why we cover these points. This guy literally just said a bunch of platitudes that were incredibly vague, listed a couple numbers that had nothing to do with reality, tied them back to something completely different, and in the very end said, nope, nothing we can do.
Yep.
I mean, literally, Tim, if you were in a real life world, right? Like, I don't know, say we weren't in the gun control world where it's just everything makes no sense whatsoever. If someone said in their argument, well, 87% of the American population want this, don't you think it might be something that would be an easy win to go, so we should do this? Yeah. Like, if you're saying that 9 out of 10 Americans are on board with this, don't you think your next statement will be, so we should do that thing? Or do you think maybe you're just lying and then you're backing off of it because it's an election year and you know it's not popular? Right. I don't know, Tim.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 Americans want this, but we haven't been able to get it done for the last, 40 years because they want it so bad.
It's just so weird. They want
but meanwhile, you can get 49% of the population that supports universal health care, then that isn't quite enough to get it over the finish line. So they all come in at midnight and push it over the finish line in the middle of the night. They can get that done. But when they got 9 out of 10 Americans supporting something, we just can't get it done. And if we do get it done, it'll make a difference.
Isn't that weird? And then she tries to push him, and it's like, well, I'm not going to answer that. If it's such a lock, why not, dum-dum? I mean, it's so transparent, dude. Like, what's interesting about that clip is you can watch that, and you can have the immediate emotional reaction of, this guy just said he wants to confiscate our guns. Well, technically the anchor said we should confiscate the guns. The politician was like, I can't say that on TV.
Yeah. No, the politicians are ducking all this. Matter of fact, Harris is ducking it by sending out her surrogates to change her policies for her. So she's not directly doing it. Right. So
exactly.
She's for gun confiscations, but no, one of her surrogates just said, not really. No, not really.
No, that's bad.
Not really.
That's bad.
Now she still can say, well, I didn't say that. That was one of that. I don't even know who that woman is.
Exactly. It's not confiscations. It's mandatory buybacks.
Right. That's the game they're playing right now. Right.
Uh-huh.
If you go to the Harris website and look for her policy positions on things like the Second Amendment or anything, guess what you're not going to find? A policy page. But hey,
no, there's an update. They did it last night.
They put one up last night.
Big news.
They just cut and paste from Trump's website? Did they finally do that?
We should do an episode on that. But
it
was big news.
I posted on Twitter all the things that she switched on in the last 2 weeks. It's literally everything from fracking to gun control.
Yeah.
She's mirroring Trump's policies 100%.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It's odd. But you know what? That's another thing for another time. But you know what? We know, Tim, 89 million% of the American people want universal background checks. Every one of them does.
Yeah.
100 million.
110% people do.
All of it.
And it's just, someday we're going to get it done. There's just not enough support for it with, the entire American population supporting it.
Yeah.
But, we got a lot of work to do on Congress.
3 Americans out of 10 to hug in a corner and agree on something.
I know, right?
God in heaven.
Yes or no answer?
Oh boy.
Well, I'm a pastor. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So you can just take us out. We're good.
Oh, we're done. I thought there was more. And you know what?
Well, that's the next one.
This Warnock dude, he's been a pain in my rear end for years. All right. Anyway, so we got another video to do, folks. So let's jump over to that one. Thank you for watching this one. We'll talk to you guys soon.